On to the if statement. Now it's going to be worth 10 points on the test. You'll notice when we're done, this doesn't add up to 100 because I'm not counting putting things in here like how to do sum, how to use bold. These are the big points, if you would. So in an if statement is kind of like saying if it's a nice day, tonight we'll have a cookout. So if that's true, if it's a nice day, we'll have a cookout. How about if it's raining? Well, we're not having a cookout. So that's really common in an Excel spreadsheet. And you probably recognize these from math. Less than, greater than, equal to. And this one, this is how you drew it a little bit different when you were in school. You probably drew it less than or equal to, but this is how we type it on a computer, less than or equal to right there. And greater than or equal to. And when you have a less than and a greater than together, this really means not equal to. There's no other way to put that symbol because we don't have this symbol on a keyboard, but we do have less than, greater than. So why did I tell all of you? Well, let me now go back to our project, but I'm going to take a side tour. Do not put this next part in your sheet, but if you don't watch this, I think you're not going to understand. So I'm going to pretend there are 3 local hotels in our town. We have, let's say, the Hampton Inn by Liberty University in Lynchburg. Let's say we have the Timberlake Motel. It's a small little local hotel kind of out in the Timberlake Forest region. And let's say we have a sketchy hotel and it's just scary inside. We won't name it so we don't pick on anybody. Okay, so let's say in row D, I'm going to put how much they cost tonight when it's not graduation weekend around here. So let's say the Hampton Inn is $79 a night. The Timberlake Hotel, is $75. Sketchy Hotel is $29. And we'll do a real rich hotel. Let's go with a Wyndham. There's a Wyndham with beautiful up on top of Liberty Mountain. And they're usually about $219 a night. So we have some hotels here. This is their price for one night. So I'm going to come up with some if statements. I've decided if a hotel costs more than $80, we're going to make that pricey. That's expensive. But if it's under $80, it's going to be reasonable. Now, what if it's exactly? We're going to say if it's 80 or less, it's reasonable priced. So to put an if function in, you could type it, but we're going to use this f of x function. If you would go to all and find if. This is an if statement. It's definitely going to be in your test. And we only do 1 on the spreadsheet, so I don't think that's enough. So I wanted to do 2 with you so you have a chance to really learn it. Hit if it's okay. Anytime you pick if, the next screen, you're going to get 3 boxes on the screen. And let me explain what each one means. This is the test. If that test is true, what happens? If that test is false, what happens? Always 3. In this test, this first line, we're going to put less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to, or equal to. So let's only worry about one hotel, the Hampton Inn. So I'm going to click on its price, D1. And I'm going to say if D1 is over, which is greater than 80, then we'll do something about it. If it's greater than 80, we're going to say that that hotel is expensive. I'm going to put that in double quotes because it's a literal word. But if it's not over $80, so it's 80 or less, we're going to put reasonable. And put it in double quotes because I'm not doing a formula or something like that. Now, they could have absolute reference here, but let's see if I need it. Let's see, D1. D1, when I copy it down, will be D2 and D3 and D4. So I have values to copy to, so I don't need absolute reference. Now, it even tells me the answer right here. This hotel is going to be priced reasonable. Notice it said that the Hampton Inn is reasonable. But what about the other hotels? And notice our if statement right up here in the formula bar. If D1 is greater than 80, expensive, otherwise reasonable. Notice it put commas to separate. Now I want to copy this with my autofill handle through the other 3 hotels. And notice, well, the Wyndham is expensive. And the reason we do this is that there were like thousands of hotels in Virginia, and there are, as prices change, like the Hampton Inn during Liberty's graduation weekend goes up to, let's say, $468. Well, do you notice it automatically says expensive? And these other ones probably triple as well. So they all become, well, almost all of them become expensive. So pretty easy to do. Now let's go back to sheet 1 and use this for real. So now we're back on sheet 1, and I want to click on the bonus line. So let me talk you through what we're going to put here first instead of just typing. So we're going to give the manager of this hotel, this Manola Shoes, a bonus if they hit a certain goal. Let's go look what the goal is. Look down here, the revenue for bonus, if they make $1.25 million in the cash register that month, then that particular head manager gets a $5,000 bonus. And that's pretty typical. Did you know that most McDonald's, any of these fast food places, if they hit their goal, each manager will get like $5,000 a month. That's why they keep telling you, if you work there, could you sell more fries, or do you need an apple pie with that? You get the idea here. They're not sharing that bonus, but they certainly want that bonus. So we want to use these 2 cell references because the bonus could go up. The revenue for bonus may increase or decrease. So we want to use the cell references when we do this if formula. So let's click in B9. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to click F of X, come down here and click on if. You'll be doing this. It will not tell you the formula, so make sure you understand what we're doing here so you understand when you do your assignments and test. So I'm scrolling down to the if, and when I click OK, as always, I get these 3 boxes. And I'm going to move it gently over here by tugging on the title bar so I can see. So what's my test? I want to know if the revenue in the cash register, so basically B4, if that is greater than or equal to. So what we're doing here is we want to see if it's larger than what's in B21. And it has to be the equal to, because 1.25 million, it would get you the bonus. So we have to put that equal to there as well. We're not going to type in the 1.25 million because on this spreadsheet, I have a cell. So always use the cell references if they're there. Now, we must check to see if I need absolute reference. So let's look. We look at B4. Is there something in C4 and D4 and E4? Well, yeah, there is. So we don't need it there. But we come down here to B21. Is there something in C21, D21? No, there's nothing. It can't copy. So we want to make B21 absolute reference. We can hit function F4 or type in the $B $21. Do not put dollar signs around B4 because if not, it wouldn't, look at each individual month. So let's click in the true box. What are we getting if it's true? Well, they're getting a $5,000 bonus. So let's click right here on B20. We don't want quotation marks because we're not putting a word like expensive. So what we're going to do here is, do we need absolute reference? Well, is there anything in C20, D20? No. So we do need absolute reference. So we're going to hit function F4 or type the dollar signs. So here's a tricky question. What do they get if it's false? Well, they get nothing. Don't type the word nothing. Let's just type 0 right in here. It's a numeric value, so I don't need the quotes around it. And let's look. For the month of January, it's already telling us the answer. Oh, they're going to get the 5,000. Let's double check that. Is this number over 1.25 million? Yes, it is. So now when we hit OK, yes, we have the bonus of $5,000. And now when I pull it over through June, let's just see how many months got the bonus. Oh, February, yep, that was over 1.25 million. Everybody look at March. is 1.1 over 1.25? Well, no. So they got nothing. And there's the 5,000 over 1.25. And again, 0. They did not get it in May, and they didn't get it in June. Please don't type just 5,000 in and not do the if statement. You would miss 10 points, like say on the test. So that is an if statement worth 10 points, very important to know. So now that we have our if statement in, we can now add up all of these expenses. Sometimes a bonus is an expense to the company, or sometimes the bonus might come from the government and it could be income. So always watch the question carefully. We want to add these expenses up. So I'm going to hit auto sum one time. And it says, hey, is this what you want to add up? It is. So let me click it the second time. And now I'm going to copy this over to through June. We now want to do the operating income. Now the operating income, listen carefully so you understand, this in B6 is how much money we came in after we paid for the goods that we're selling, like clothes, shirts, great shoes. And these are the expenses. So what we're seeing is basically what's left. So we're going to start this cell B16 with an equal sign, and you need to be able to understand how to do this yourself. So we want to click the margin that I made, that was the money coming in, and subtract all the money going out, expenses. And if this number is positive, we made money. If this number is negative, we lost money. So let's see. Wow, we made a lot of money, $623,000. And that's hopefully to pay all the employees and all that good stuff. Good. So let's drag it over through G. And oh, wow, they're all positive. So every month they made money. Hey, now let's do the totals. And I'm going to do 3 at a time here. I need to add up all the revenue we made for 6 months, how much we paid for the cost of goods, and how much was left with a gross margin all at once. So if I do multiple cells at once, I only need to click on auto sum one time. So H4 through H6 get added straight across, and it finds the sum of row 4, sum of row 5, sum of row 6. I want to do these added straight across to find all my expenses. So I hit auto sum one time. And I want to add straight across here. I want to find out, okay, how much money did we make? So when we only do one cell with auto sum, I have to click auto sum twice. Wow, we made some significant money there. Wow. Onward to spark lines. What a spark line is a mini graph to show trends. So first, click on I3. Let's change that now to chart. And notice even when I change it, it moves back upwards. And in cell I4, I am going to put a mini chart called a spark line inside this to reflect the 6 months of what was in the cash register. So basically, how were sales? So to find spark lines, let's click on the Insert tab, and this is where all the regular graphs are. We've used those before, but notice there's a group right here called spark lines. And there's lines, there's columns, and there's win or loss. We're going to stick with a little line. And when I click line right here, it asks me, well, what range do you want to display in this mini graph? So I'm going to come back here, and I am going to make sure I can highlight from January B4 all the way through G4. Important, make sure you're not selecting H4 because that's a total. That's not one of your 6 months. So we have B4 through G4, and the location range is I4. And it even does the absolute reference 4 is how awesome automatically. So I've clicked OK, and I got this graph. Notice what it's really trying to say here is that we did well in the first few months. Then we took a dip maybe in March. April was a good month, but then we kind of finished weak at the end of the year. Now I can change the style or the design of this spark line. I can hit this More button right here. And the SAM Projects tells us to pick blue sparkline style accent 1, lighter 40%. So it's just a tad lighter. And now I can copy this by taking my mouse and getting my skinny plus sign and dragging it all the way down to row 16, and it's going to graph any line with numbers. And if you notice, they're pretty consistent because everything was kind of based off revenue, so no shock there. But now if I want to change my mind, I can click back on Sparkline and now make it a column instead. And now it's the same color, but now you can see we had good 2 months, dropped, good month, and then 2 drops there. So now we kind of have a customized Sparkline of what I want. Now I want to clean up my spreadsheet to make it look more like what a business would use. So let's select, and the first thing we're going to do is I want to select from B4 down to H4. So B4 over to H4. We're just doing these numbers here, not the chart. Whoops, let me do that again. B4 to H4. And what we'll do here, after I get these highlighted, I want to do non-adjacent cells. So let me zoom out a little bit here, make my life easier. So now I'm going to hold down the control key, and in addition to row 4, I'm going to hold down control, do the numbers on row 6, and I want to do the numbers on row 9, not the graphs, and the numbers on row 14, and the numbers on row 16. Once we have these rows selected, we're going to pick currency in here. So what we want to do is to get currency, that's accounting, so don't pick there. Hit the number launcher, and we want to pick currency on the left side. That puts the $sign, 2 decimal places. And we want to pick this last one down at the bottom to make negative numbers, not only in parentheses this time, but to make them red. So if they ever show up, we'll absolutely know what to do there. And next, let's select B5 through H5, basically the numbers in between that we haven't selected. Hold down Control and then highlight the numbers on rows 10, 11, 12, and 13. Let go, and we're going to go back there now, and we're going to go back to the currency category box. So pick currency back on the left, and this time we are going to pick 2 decimal places, but instead of putting the $sign, we're going to drop that down and pick none. So I won't just have $signs everywhere. I am going to pick this same 4th one for negative numbers that does red and parentheses. Go ahead and click OK right there. So now the numbers are, my goodness, a lot easier to read. It looks like the top and bottom row of each section have a $sign, and the ones in between basically have the comma style, although we did the currency with no $sign just to do something different. If you press Control and Home at the same time, you should head up to cell A1, and we're going to make A1 bold. So first change it to bold. We want to make the font size of A1 size 28. And then go ahead and click cell A2. We want to make the font size 16. So now we're going to select ranges from A1 to I2. So basically selecting both of these first rows. And we're going to change the fill color. The fill color means the paint bucket. We're going to paint the back. We're going to pick the dark blue. And we want the text to, in this case, 80%. So let's go find dark blue. We want text to lighter 80%. So that would be this 3rd one right down here. And we'll add some background color right there. So now we have, oops, lighter 80%. Sorry, let's make sure I'm on the right one. This one, sorry. Dark blue, text to lighter 80% as the background color. And then change the font color just to plain dark blue. If you don't have these colors right here, we'll know what happened, what went wrong there. We're picking dark blue, accent 1. If you don't have these colors, you're on the wrong theme. Our spreadsheet's looking better, but let's continue. Let's highlight from A3 to I3. And what we want to do with this is go to the Home tab, go under Cell Styles till you get to Heading Size 3. This will make that really pop in a nice blue that kind of matches everything else. That looks great. Let's now highlight from A6 to H6, A6 to H6, and then hold down the Control key and do A14 to H14, and then A16 to H16. And let's pick the cell style called Total. And these totals make some nice looking lines to make everything come together. I'll click off of it. Next, click on cell A4. I'm going to make revenue, just that word, the same paint that we used before. Remember the fill color we used before was this dark blue, text 2, lighter 80%. And we use the same font. It's actually the dark blue accent 1. Now, once I get that on that word, I don't want to have to redo that on all the different words here. So one thing that I'm going to definitely do is I'm going to hold down the Format Painter. And what a Format Painter is, it kind of takes whatever the layout and the format of that cell and copies the format, not the numbers. So if I double click this Format button right there, I can now click cell A6 and it applies that same layout to that as well. And then I'm also going to click on, after gross margin, also click on operating income. And by double clicking it, it holds whatever the format that you wanted to do there. Let's highlight from A4 down to A16 and make these cells bold. And I also want you to highlight from B16 over to H16. And we're going to do several things. We're going to use that same color that we've been using. So we're going to make this same dark blue text 2 lighter 80%. And we're also going to make it the same font that we've been using, this dark blue text 2 in those values as well. We also want to change it to make it currency. Let's hit the number launcher. Make sure it's set to currency. 2 places, $sign, and of course, the last of the negative numbers, which is red and in parentheses. Let's now come down to what if assumptions in A18. And we're going to change this font size from 11 to 9. We're also going to make this italics by clicking the italicized slanted I. And then next to it, click the underline button. We're now going to select the range from A19 to B25. Change that font to size 9-point font. And then select the whole thing, A18 to B25, the whole what if assumptions area. And I'm going to do that same fill color that we've been using for everything else. You'll see it up there. You don't have to re-pick it again. It should be on the paint bucket. And the same font color we've been using for everything as well. And now if I click off of that or deselect it, you should be able to see what we've done. Now next, we want to add a column chart. Column is up and down. You probably used to call it like a bar chart, but we call this a clustered column chart. And what we're actually going to graph is we're going to highlight from A3 over to G3. Now notice A3 is blank. We're doing January, February, March, April, May, and June. Make sure, please, 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 make sure you don't pick total. And don't pick total when you do your homework or on a test, because then it looks like total is one more month, like the 7th month. When you're saying the first half of the year, you need 6 slices for January through June, not 7 slices or 7 bars in this case, or columns. So after I have A9 through G9 highlighted, I want to do the expenses. So hold down the control key because we're going to do non-adjacent cells. And then select A9, starting with a bonus, all the way through G13, let go. So what I'm not doing is any of these totals here, look where my mouse is moving, or any of these total expenses. Just double check right now that you have the same range that I have highlighted. We're going to do a big column chart with all of these pieces. So we're going to go to the Insert tab, and we want to look, instead of picking a column, a bar, all these different kinds, or the spark lines that we picked earlier, we've never looked at recommended charts. It turns out that some graphs look better with certain data. So we want to see, based on the type of data we have, what they would recommend. And this is a really good way to see what would look best with our data. And this first one is actually one of those recommended charts, but look at all the rest down here if you scroll down. I love the colors, based of course on our theme. So we're going to select this first clustered column, and you know it's a clustered column because look, the other ones are called something different. This one says clustered column right here, notice that. And then click the OK button. At first, it tries to lay it right on top of everything else, and that's not cool. I want to be able to see my data. So we're going to come up to the tab at the top. We're on the Chart Design tab and click Move Chart. Good. And then we're going to say I want it on a new sheet, so click this first radio button. And to save us the time from naming this later, let's actually call this right here the expense with a capital E, chart, capital C, and sheet. So this is going to be the expense chart sheet. So we can see what our expenses are. And now I'll go ahead and click OK. And wow, look at this. And let's kind of look at it. The pink, or the hot magenta, if you would, are the salary. That's where we spend a lot of our budget, is paying our employees. And you can see there is the site rentals and all the other colors. The bonus is a real tiny part. And notice that little blue bar is only in 3 of the months because we didn't get bonus every single time. Now, we don't want to leave it like this because it doesn't look great. So I want you to click in this placeholder here for the title. And I want to change chart title. So I'm going to highlight it and then type in 6 with a capital S, dash, no space, month with a capital M, space, projected expenses. Good. 6-month projected expenses. And we want to click on the underline button here. So let me go to home and click the underline button. Make sure you still have it highlighted when you go to click the underline button to make sure it does underline that. And now click anywhere kind of outside the chart to kind of see if this looks great. Now I want to do something called add data labels. This kind of will show me, well, what was the exact amount of how much we budgeted for these 6 months. So click anywhere on the chart. So click right here. When you click on the chart, you'll get this plus sign, this paintbrush, and this filter. I'm going to click the plus sign. These are called chart elements, and we can add any of these items so they display. Right now we have the axes, the chart title, the grid lines, and the legend. But I want to add something else. I want to add this data labels right here. So I'm going to check that and take a moment to look what's happened. It now has put the exact values on here. It's a little busy, but I think that's pretty cool. If you click back out, and then we can, under data labels, there's a little down arrow, right arrow here. You can now pick where they're going to be. Do you see how they move? I'm going to pick where it's called outside end on the data labels flyout menu. So that way we could see it. So it should look just like this now. Click outside to kind of get what that looks like. We can also apply chart filters. We saw that a moment ago, so click back on your graph area somewhere. And we said moments ago that this is called the chart filter. These are the items that show up or don't show up. So when we click here, you have series and categories, and you can decide, you could even undo January, February. We're not going to do that, but I wanted to show you that's possible. We're going to uncheck in the series area. We're going to remove the check marks and uncheck the bonus and the salary. I've decided I don't want those bars in there. So they won't really go away though until you click the apply button at the bottom. So now look at our chart. We're just really just showing the site rental, the marketing, and miscellaneous. And we may want to show that because maybe other things are kind of private. We can also add other chart elements. Let's go back to the plus sign up here. We now want to turn on this axis titles. Let me show you what that means. So now this axis title, and it's saying, well, what should that be? Click that right fly out arrow right there, and we can make sure that we only have primary vertical and undo this one. What this does is just have this axis title only, not the other one that was on the horizontal. And now we can rename that. So on the bottom here, let's click off of this to make sure we get back. I want you to select this little placeholder. Placeholder just means the box where we can type. We can highlight what's there. And before we go to type something, I want you to right click on that little placeholder right there. And you'll be able to go down to Format Axis Title at the bottom. So go ahead and click Format Axis Title. And what this allows us to do, it comes over here and says, okay, what do you want to do with this? I want you to click on this Size and Properties. It's the third tool over, Size and Properties. And once you click this Size and Properties button, you'll see the alignment grouping here. We can click which way we want the text direction to go. Do you see text direction? So let's drop down this little arrow. Right now it's kind of doing it up and down, rotated like that. We could switch it to ABC horizontal, for example. And a lot of your chemistry classes, your science classes are going to expect you to be able to use Excel. So this is not just for IT 115, but for other classes. So now get the ABC going right there. And now the axis title will go basically left to right. So let's finally type. The access title is just a $sign. This is identifying actual money. So hold down and get that $sign by itself in there. So now let's close this access title. So now we have it going across horizontally, and we've got the $sign in there. We've closed that task pane. We can also change the chart style. Click back on your chart and open the chart design tab if you're no longer on that. These are called the chart styles in the ribbon. So drop down the more button. Remember, the more button shows you a gallery. I want you to count over to get to the 6 styles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you hover over it, it actually says style 6. So we're going to select this style 6 right there to give it a very different looking feel. We can also modify the chart axis number format. Next, I want you to right click on any value on that vertical panel. So everybody, here's what we're talking about. These numbers from 160,000 down to 0. Click anywhere on this. You'll see a little box go around that. And then right click your mouse to change this chart axis number format. We can go down here to Format Axis. to open this Format Access pane. It's amazing how many places we can drill down here. And what I want you to do is on this particular one, we want to show you how we want to display this number. So at the very bottom here, you're going to have to look very bottom to the bottom, click number. You're going to have to scroll down to even see what's under number. And what we want to do is, I don't want these 0 zeros. It looks like it's a bigger number than it is because it's hard to see. So I'm going to take decimal places, backspace over it, and type a 0. And that will give me a much better item here. So now when I hit enter after I type the 0, notice this 0.00 goes away, and that makes it a lot easier to see. Go ahead and close the Format Access panel over there on that right side. Next, let's remove a couple of these pieces because the graph does look a little too busy, but I did want to show you where these things were. So I want you to click the plus sign at the top, and the first thing we're going to remove is the check mark for data labels. That clears up all of those numbers. And next, let's click, we can click that button again to make that go away. Now click the Chart Filters button to display the chart filters. And we're going to go ahead and add back the bonus and salary back into our chart. And don't forget, when you apply these, you have to hit apply for them to actually return. So now that we have the graph of our dreams, we can click off of it. Let's just organize our workbook before we turn it in. This is called our workbook. Each of these pages is called a spreadsheet. So we have the expense chart sheet done, but I do want to change the color. So right click on the tab called the expense chart sheet tab. And I want you to go up to tab color. And we're going to pick this one right here, the dark blue text 2. So the fourth button over basically. So now we have that color right there. I now want you to double click on the sheet 1 tab. First of all, we want to rename it. So once you double click, type in 6-month space financial projection. Make sure you always have your book open so you can double check and hit enter and then right click on it. And let's go to the tab color. And on this one, I am going to pick this turquoise. It's called light turquoise, background 2. It's really the third one over. And then click there and just select an empty cell. So when I go back and forth now, you can kind of see how our spreadsheets are turning out. And a lot of times you may want to reorder these tab sheets. I'm going to do that here. I want you to click on the 6-month financial projection tab, pull it out in front of the expense chart sheet. That makes more sense. We should have the numbers and then the graph of those numbers. Now, we always want to check spelling in your multiple sheets. So to make sure they're both checked at the same time, click on the 6-month projection sheet, hold down, in this case, we're going to hold down Control and also select the expense chart sheet. By holding down Control, they're now both selected. So we can go to the Review tab, click the first button, which is spelling, and it says, do you want to check all these things? It does come across the word Manola. I'm going to say ignore once because that word is a proper name and that is spelled correct, M-A-N-O-L-A. Okay, now both sheet tabs should still be selected. I do want you now to come up to your Backstage View. If you're on a PC, it's File. If not, you'll click on the 3 dots at the top that your Mac has. But right back here, you can now get into the print. This is called our Backstage View. And I want to show you back here how to lay it out so that right now, if you look what would print out, it may not be how you want this to print out. So the first thing I'm going to do is find, right now, it's set as landscape orientation. Think of it wide. But I want to change it to like your school photos. That's like portrait. Now look what happens when I change landscape to portrait. Do you see now how it goes up and down? And this might be a better way to do this. I could also change where at the bottom, it probably might say no scaling. And what we can do is say now fit sheet to one page. Yours may be already set on something else, but pick at the bottom one to fit sheet on one page. And now that we're making sure that everything fits there, you always make sure you have the right printer. And if we were really printing this, we'd hit that print button right now. We don't have to print it, obviously. And now let's just hit that arrow to get back out. Click on your sheet tabs separately to make sure they're no longer grouped together. And let's make sure that you're still saving by the appropriate name. One of the last things we're going to do today is show you how to change the view and then on to the most important probably thing of the day, what if analysis. So I would like you on the 6-month financial projection page, please hit Control Home to go to cell A1. And I want to show you down here we have the Zoom tool. Let me show you where that is. I want you to click on the View tab at the top. I know we have Zoom tools down here, but I want to show you another one. Go under the View tab, go to the Zoom group, and you can now click on this magnifier button called Zoom. And you get this little tool to hop open. It says, hey, what do you want to look at? Set that to 100%. And now click OK. So you can see it at 100%. Now go back to Zoom. And now click to 75%. And do you see it gives you a little bit more of the spreadsheet that is visible. Notice down here in the bottom right corner, it also still says 75%. If you wanted to do something a little more custom, click on Zoom. What we're going to do is click Custom this time and go to 70%. So you don't have to go to one of these pre-selections. Click OK, and it will go down there. Hey, let's go back to 100%. Go to Zoom, go back to 100%, hit OK, so we get a nice full sheet. One of the things that you may want to do is I want you to first click on cell E8. I know it's kind of a random cell, but E8, what we're going to do is show you how to split a window into different panes. And to do this, I want you to click on the View tab. You should already be there. But this time, look at the window group that's listed here. And what we're going to do is we are going to find the split button. There it is, split button. Look what happens when I click split. It puts this 4-way line, and now it gives us 4 different ways to scroll around. I can go left to right here. I can go down right here and go back up. I can go down over here, and I can go down over here. So look at all these different ways. And a lot of times if you're talking about a massively large spreadsheet, sometimes you want to break it into parts. To remove this split tool, just click on split again. It will remove the split and you're back to where you were. Now there's another item we want you to know for your test. It's called freeze panes. And to do this, the best cell to click is B4. Think about where B4 is. To the left are the labels and above are the labels. So what I'm going to now do with the View tab still open in the window group, let's click Freeze Panes. And now click Freeze Panes right here. You'll see a line there and a line there. What this makes you do is as you scroll down the page, you'll forever be able to see what is January, February, and March when you have a lot more data down there, let's say in the future. Or you can go across and still see what the left columns see here when you're looking at multiple months. To undo these, you just click on Freeze Panes again. And what's the opposite of Freeze Panes? Well, of course, Unfreeze Panes. Now, one of our last important things we're going to do is called Whatif Analysis. So let's go back to our Excel test review and put in your review sheet that where 10 points is something called goal seek, and it has a lot of what if analysis. Now you'll add these together. You only get 45. What are the other 55 points on the test? Doing things like graphs is going to be 10 points, so we can put that in here. But the other smaller points that you're going to do are really smaller things like bold, do themes, do merge and center, do all the pieces that we've already done. So these are the big points though. So make sure you know all of these. Let's go learn goal seek so we know what to expect here. So I'm going to open my spreadsheet, and like in real life, values change. I want you to click cell B20, and the company has decided to change the bonus. And this is why we don't use these actual numbers in the formula, because they may change. Maybe they want to encourage everybody post-COVID to do more sales. So we're going to change this number. So type in 7,500, so 7,500. And when we do so, as I hit enter, notice all my numbers get changed around because that value is in a lot of formulas. We're also going to change another one. I want you to go down to B22, type in 25.00%. And now again, all of your numbers will change. And in cell B25, we have decided miscellaneous, it hasn't been as expensive, so we're only going to make 3.50%. By the way, I'm in figure 3-77 in your book, so you can follow along. So by making these changes, everyone make sure that your cell H16 is right. If it's not, go back. You've mistyped something. It should be 3,042,257.75. So now that I have this, I show this to my board. I say the department store hopes after 6 months next year to make a little over $3 million and $42,000 relatively. Well, a lot of times boards will look at this and go, well, could we up that number? And I might ask them, okay, what should our target be? Well, we'd really like to make $3,500,000. Now I can't just type here, $3,500,000. We have to budget that. So in other words, we'd have to pay people less or work or let people go. Sadly, that's what's been happening recently, right? But instead, we have decided that we're going to change what the value is in B23. Now let's look right now. I want you to understand, not just click buttons. Right now, we're paying 10% of our profits to rent our site rental. Everybody look at B23. Now, let me explain this in real life. Let's say we have this placement in the mall, and we pay the mall 10% of what we make. So, for example, let's look. In January, we plan to pay the mall $147,000 as they participate in our profits. They get 10%. But let's say the mall is empty right now. Sound familiar? Like a lot of malls are. Do you know that we have right now in the United States twice the amount of retail space is sitting empty than we need? So half of retail space is empty right now. We just don't have anybody there. And that's even beyond 50% right now. So it's sad. So we might go back to the mall and say, hey, would you take less or we're going to move out? Well, most malls would say, yeah, we'll take a little bit less. So here is what we're going to do. We want to make this amount. Everyone click on H16, $3.5 million. And again, we can't just type it. So what we're going to do is click on the data tab. This is definitely on the test, so pay attention. Click on the data tab and come over to forecast. Forecast is how we're forecasting next year to be. We're going to click on what if analysis. And that is where goal seek is hiding. Everybody take a mental screenshot so you know where to do this on your test. Data, what if analysis, and goal seek. Now when I click on goal seek, once we get here, it's easy. I think the hardest part of this is finding it. So what we're saying here is click on cell H16. And it says, okay, but what value do you want H16 to be? We're going to type in here 3, 500, 000, so $3.5 million. And then click in the last box. We have to change something. What are we going to plan on doing? Are we going to let people go? Are we going to try to renegotiate our site rental? That's what we're doing. So everyone click on cell B23. It's got to be a number, so don't click on A23. Click on B23 and notice it puts the absolute reference there for you. How nice is that? Now, everybody watch. This was $3,042,000. This was 10%. If we want to kick it up to $3 million, $3.5 million profit, when we click OK, it's going to say, okay, look at everything. Okay, here's $3.5 million. It did change. Oh my goodness. Let's click on site rental. We will in a second. Go ahead and click OK here. We click on site rental. We could only pay the mall 4.13% of our profits. But look what that comes out to be. That's $60,000 a month for at least January. I think most of the malls would take that rather than sit empty. So this kind of shows us how we can put all of this together. As we now put all of this in here, let me show you the last couple things, promise. I want you to click on cell A6. There's something built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access. I want to show it to you here. When you click on A6, we have gross margin. To some students, that would be like, I don't know what that means. So anytime you come across a term or a phrase you don't know what it means, I want you now to click on the Review tab. And when you click on the Review tab, you can click on something called Smart Lookup. This is kind of like, even in an email or in Word, you can click it and it explains what that is. So now I can read gross margin is the difference between revenue and the cost of goods sold divided by revenue. Wow, who knew? And a lot of times if you scroll down here, you get all of these videos and pictures and that explain it. Let's go ahead and close this search right here after we do that. There are also accessibility features that we can use. And let me just show you where that is. We're going to go back to the Backstage View and click on Info. Back here, there is a check button back here just to make sure. As I click on the Info tab on the left, there's Check for Issues. What this is doing as I click Check Accessibility is it's making sure any images or anything that I have, for example, the chart shows that we haven't put like words for alt text here. We're not going to make any of these changes, but just wanted to show you to make sure everyone who is of low vision could actually use this. Kind of cool. Hey, last, everyone save this with the SAM exact file name. Always look at your document in your book to see if all your screenshots look the same, that they should be in the end. Submit. Guys, this module is almost identical to what your test looks like. So really, for the Excel test, study the Manola department stores. You also have homework coming up with this called Absolute Reference Assignment that's almost identical to this as well. So make sure you study this spreadsheet. Good luck, guys. Keep up the hard work. Proud.